Greetings, good morning, and welcome everyone to Mind the Moment. Thank you for joining us here in our coffee house in the cloud, a place for us to come together, build community, get centered, and explore this present moment. It is June 16th, 2020, which fans of modernist literature will recognize as Bloomsday, the day in which the events of James Joyce's epic novel Ulysses unfold. In exploring what happens to a handful of characters in a single day in a single city across over 700 pages, Joyce celebrates the act of bringing attentiveness to minutiae, letting nothing escape his gaze, no matter how seemingly insignificant. There is value, he seems to suggest, in unpacking every moment. Joyce writes in Ulysses, "Every life is many days, day after day. We walk through ourselves, meeting robbers, ghosts, giants, old men, young men, wives, widows, brothers-in-law, but always meeting ourselves." I'm John Roberts from Harvard Pilgrim Health Care's mindfulness program, and I'm delighted to be meeting myself in this moment with Liz Maillett, a former attorney and forever a wonderful mindfulness teacher. Good morning, Liz. How are you today?
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone.
So in just one moment, I will be handing things over to Liz to lead us in a 10-minute guided meditation, after which we'll dive into some Q&A, and then we'll wrap things up just before 9 a.m. Now, there at the bottom of your screen, you will see an option to open up a chat box. Please share with us any questions or comments you might have at any time. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. And so, Liz, is there anything that you'd like to ask the folks at home to comment on as we're getting started?
So I loved that James Joyce noticing of the minutia, John. And I would invite people this morning to just take a moment right now. Feel free to close your eyes if you want and just notice and find a one-word label to note what is happening. And if you want to enter that one-word label for how you're feeling right now, or a thought coming through your mind, a body sensation, whatever it may be, just one word or phrase, feel free to enter that in the chat box.
Oh, that's a very good prompt. All right, looks like we have a nice substantial group of people practicing with us this morning. Thank you for taking the time to be with us and each other. Now, as you type, keep in mind that only Liz and I will be able to see what you type. And if we don't read what you say on the air, please know that we are reading and appreciating them all. Before we close, I will also point out some other ways you can keep in touch with us too. Okay, so a lot of things coming in. So someone says overwhelmed, sleepy, energetic, motivated, anxious, confusion, the now, contemplation, stressed. And Liz, just for myself, I felt when you were talking, I felt kind of a flickering behind my eyes as I had them closed, almost like a film reel flipping past. And that was kind of both a pleasant and also kind of energizing, also unnerving sensation. But all right, so thank you for that, Liz, that prompt, and thank you everyone for your responses. Let me turn it over to you, Liz, to sort of lead us along into the meditation.
So I'd like to introduce a 10-minute meditation this morning on what is referred to as noting practice. For me, one of the benefits, one of the sort of sneaky benefits of meditation over time is that there is more noticing of things happening around me, things that are happening in my head or in my body. And one fruitful area of noticing for me, John mentioned I am a retired attorney, and I just happen to know that he's going to be asking me some questions about that. So one of the fruitful areas of noting practice for me has been noticing my own thoughts and judgments that attorneys are actually paid to do really quickly, but that sometimes don't really help. But one way to build the noticing muscle, if you will, is through what I'm calling a noting practice, which is simply the act of uh, noticing how you're feeling, giving it a label like we just did at the outset, and trying not to judge whatever that label is. The noting can do two things that prove to be helpful and even more helpful over time as you build this skill. One is, just the basic skill of identifying something that may have escaped our notice. So for me, feeling right now just a little bit nervous about speaking online here, and just noticing that. So it's the identification of something that may have escaped our notice is one of the benefits. And the other is that it shifts our perspective among some of the one word noticings that people are doing already. John was reading some of them. Another, stress, contemplation, confusion with an exclamation point. To be a stress ball is one thing. To notice that you're a stress ball and to label it actually shifts your perspective to seeing that you're a stress ball. And one of the basic skills we teach in stress reduction is, if you can notice the stress and watch it, you're actually maybe ticking down the stress a notch or two by that shift in perspective. So the noticing practice, two benefits: the identifying and the shifting of the perspective just a bit in a way that can be helpful. So settle in. We'll start with just some basic beginning to a meditation practice for the next 10 minutes or so. Find a position that is relatively comfortable. Often for me, it helps to begin with a couple of deeper breaths to bring attention into my body and let areas that feel tense or tight relax a little bit. To use the breath to help me scan through my body, just to notice how it's feeling. Bringing an intention for these few minutes to be at ease with whatever is happening. And in applying a noting practice, cast your attention first, if you like, to the physical realm, to the sensations in your body, and notice anything that is occurring there. And if there's a one-word label that pops up for anything that's occurring, any sensation, use the noting practice for these physical sensations. We're using the noting practice here to help ourselves settle in and relax. But if settling in is not something your body can do right now, just notice whatever's here without judgment and give that a label. And then I invite you to shift, if you like, from the realm of the physical to noticing your thoughts. No need to stop whatever thoughts are arising. There's no need to get on board with any particular thought, but just allow it to come up. And using this noting practice, see if you can give the thought a 1-word or 2-word label. Worry, judgment, fantasy, that axe to grind. Thoughts related to an emotion. Just let the thoughts come. Don't get on the boat with any thought. Just let them come and note them. And let them drift away as another thought replaces it. This is sort of an advanced practice, the noting of thoughts without letting them carry us away. And if it gets confusing, just come back to whatever you use as your main anchor, the breath or your body or sounds, and the thoughts will inevitably arise and you can try and note them then. Just noticing what's here now. Noticing again what's here now. And sometimes that act of labeling what's here now can reveal a deeper layer of what is here now underneath. And sometimes, along with the noting practice, the act of labeling what's here, we then ask, what's underneath? This would not be the time where we're judging any of what's here now, just noticing and labeling. Perhaps with a phrase, just this, just X, the label. Allowing, noticing, holding back from judging. And as we bring this noting practice meditation to a close, I invite you to return or visit for the first time your breath. And your body, always here with you. As we count down to end this meditation, 3, 2, 1. And allowing the eyes to open, allowing your body to move.
Oh, thank you for that, Liz. That was wonderful. This is reminding me. I was listening to a song by Talking Heads while jogging this morning. A song which includes the line, "There's a party in my head, and the party never stops." And this is how I sometimes feel before meditating. But your guidance this morning really helped bring the volume down. I can't say that all the thoughts left the party at once, but I was able to get them to ease the volume on the music down a little bit. So thank you for that. So I want to make sure that everyone at home feels very invited to ask Liz questions, but I'm going to start off by asking her a couple of my own, if I may. Now, Liz, you previewed this earlier. You were a speaker at the very first Mindful Lawyer Conference at UC Berkeley in 2010, alongside other luminaries, including Jack Kornfield, Mirabai Bush, Rhonda McGee, and many others. So I love hearing about how mindfulness has crossed paths with professions that may seem at first glance to not be the most fertile ground for its cultivation. And so let me begin by asking you, were you a meditator who then became a lawyer, or were you a lawyer who then became a meditator, or did these things kind of rise up together?
um, gosh, I was a lawyer first and came to meditation as it had always been sort of an academic interest, but didn't start a personal meditation practice until I was already practicing law. And, rather quickly found the practice of meditation to be helpful in, the rough and tumble of, I was a litigation and employment lawyer, both at a large firm and in-house for a company back in the day. And, it's just a lot of stuff coming at you. And sometimes people who are really distraught or angry or troubled by whatever their legal problem is. And having a meditation practice really helped me sort of stay grounded in the rough and tumble of a busy litigation practice. So the the meditation came as sort of a helpful um, uh, health practice, I guess, or self-help practice um, in being a lawyer.
So I know a lot of folks, when they begin meditating, they often don't share that with their colleagues. Did you feel like you were sort of like not talking about that, or was it something that you felt like you could talk about with
Oh no, oh no.
the?
And so we're going back now to the early 2000s. So we're now, like, say, close to 20 years beyond that now, where it might not be so unusual to describe to a colleague that, meditation is a helpful practice. I actually do some workshops at law firms and stuff these days, in which it is sort of on the table that this might be something helpful. But that has changed significantly since the early 2000s, where it would have felt really strange to say to a colleague or a judge or an opposing counsel or a client, I'm just going to go meditate for 5 minutes and I'll be back. Okay. Like, it just would not. um, I don't know, it would have felt risky, I guess.
Do you think they would have seen that as a sign of weakness and think, oh, this this person's an easy mark? But
Well, to be honest, in some ways, lawyers are not as tuned in to the benefits of meditation as other professions might be. And so I've had people, when I say, meditation might help with the stress of your law practice a little bit. I've had people say to me, stress, we eat stress for breakfast. Are you kidding me? We thrive on it. And we don't need that namby-pamby meditation stuff to help us.
well, so when you are speaking with other lawyers, when you're doing, say, workshops at a law firm, like, is there a particular way you frame or orient the practice to make them understand the benefits in a way that you might not to just a group of other, people in the public?
Uh, so yes, I was a trial lawyer, and this picks up on actually one of the things we were just doing in the noting practice. We, as a matter of our survival, and to a point where we don't even notice it as much as we could, we make judgments all day long, large and small, and largely unconscious. And it may be, I don't like the look of this person, or it may be there's something that feels unsafe to me in this moment. They could be meaningful judgments, or they might just be silly judgments, but we're making them all the time. We don't really notice. And this noting practice has actually helped me notice a little bit more the judgments that I'm making, even though I still feel blind about it. There's a principle in trial work. This is actually a jury instruction by the judge at the beginning of a trial, where the judge will say to members of the jury, do not do your best, do your absolute best to not make judgments about the ultimate decision you'll be asked to render right now. Wait, let all of the evidence come in, and then sort through it all in its entirety. And the reason for that instruction is the same reason we call attention to judgments in our everyday life. Making the judgment too soon sort of forecloses us, it sort of puts blinders on us to the facts that then are, like, not necessarily consistent with the judgment that we've already made. That might foreclose the jurors to seeing exculpatory evidence, or things that would moderate the negligence verdict down to not 100% negligent, but 80% or 50%. Or and so jurors are instructed at the outset of a trial to refrain from making a judgment on the ultimate issue, to keep an open mind. And so oftentimes when speaking to lawyers, I'll draw attention to that type of jury instruction as something that is useful in a meditation practice as well. And it's really all just common sense, both in trial practice and in meditation practice. Let's not foreclose ourselves from seeing reality by virtue of locking ourselves into a judgment that's made too soon.
Yeah, that's an amazing way of looking at it. And what I'm hearing you say is that, and this is probably an obvious thing to say, but that a more mindful society will be a more just society. And definitely you'd want to say yes. If you have jurors, you want those to be people who are, I would rather have a juror, jurors who are meditators, who are in the position of having to bring down judgment upon me than a group that may not be. This kind of brings us around to, we're in a situation right now where there's a lot of social unrest, and there's a lot of suspicion about the criminal justice system. I'm wondering if there's any advice from the perspective of a mindfulness teacher that you would give to lawyers and judges and other legal professionals working today as we begin or continue to navigate this very difficult period.
Yeah, gosh. It's so, this is something I find myself getting stuck with. If I see on a chat group in my town somebody behaving in a harsh way, rejecting any openness toward looking at our own unconscious bias, and then I see the response being a harsh one about that person being a jerk, and so the harshnesses sort of battle each other out and no one gets heard, is to notice the feeling of harshness and bring kindness to ourselves and allow that kindness to ourselves to mitigate the wronged that we might feel from the harsh comment, and then allow our response to be informed by the same kindness.
That's wonderful. And you're actually reminding me, I was reading just this morning a book from a book by Dan Siegel entitled Mind. And in that he wrote, studies reveal that we are deeply interconnected to each other in our communities and culture. We influence people who are at least 3 degrees separated from us, even without intention. And so I think you're pointing us towards this, the importance of just thinking about our actions, and how they will affect the people, not just the person next to us, but the person next to that person, next to that person, next to that person. Well, this was, thank you, Liz. I really appreciate this conversation. I find this it was fascinating, and I found it to be very rich. So I regret that we do need to wrap up. And so let me say that we will be back with you every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find the links to these sessions and other resources at our main site at harvardpilgrim.org/mindfulness. Drop us a line at askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org, or leave a comment on our Facebook page. Let us know how you're bringing mindfulness into your life. Or do you have questions for our experts? We will pass them along. You can also leave us a voicemail at my desk number, which is 617-509-7047. You can rewatch this session, older sessions, and introductory sessions featuring my colleague, Tara Healy, on our YouTube page, and also find guided meditations on our SoundCloud page. All right. Thank you, Liz, for joining us and for guiding us and for talking with us this morning. I wondered if you'd leave us with just one resource that you think people might find especially useful as they continue to grow their practices.
Yes, I am loving myself the 10% Happier podcast by Dan Harris. It's sort of an offshoot from his app, 10% Happier, but the podcast is free and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. Variety of guests all over the map. If you have some topic you're interested in, it's always timely. Right now it's on unconscious bias. It's great.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you soon. Have a momentous day.